Well done. Well done. Congrats. Congrats. All right, let's jump into this second mind trap. It's the trap of negativity. The trap of negativity, right? This is amazing to me how life works, but I've noticed this, that oftentimes married couples, you end up having somebody who's really positive and then somebody who's not negative, but what would we say? Practical, yeah. I'll give you a chance in just a second to answer again. But, a lot of times you have, you got the person that this is the way they think about Thanksgiving dinner. This is the way they think about having a big family meal, but this is the reality of what ends up happening, right? The person that gets stuck in the trap of negativity, they oftentimes, practical is a good word for it, or another way I think about it is there's positive people and then there are realists. Yeah, they're realistic people, right? So maybe this might be you. This might be something that you see. You go, I'm not being negative. I'm just being realistic. This is the way you think the meal's going to go. The truth is, if we have those people over, this is what's going to end up happening, right? Anybody else? You just naturally expect the bad news before you expect the good news. You've got a doctor's visit, and you immediately think, you're just trying to read the face of the doctor, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm about to die. Something's wrong, right? Or do you ever have this situation where your boss sends you a text at 2 p.m., says, hey, before you leave today, you mind dropping by my office? And you immediately think, oh, today's the last day. I'm getting fired. I guess it's over, right? Some of you are wired that way, but I have found that positivity really can be a character quality even more than a personality trait. But it's so easy for us to get caught up in the trap of negativity. Why? Why is it so easy for us to get caught up in the trap of negativity? What about our world causes us to get caught up in this trap more often? Anybody have a thought? The news. I think we're wired. I do think there's something in the psychology of the way we're made up as humans. Not only are we wired to look for threats, I would absolutely agree with that, but I think we do live in a world where negativity bonds with other negativity, right? Maybe you got some friends that I can call them and they'll immediately get on my side of this thing. I've got two sisters. I'm in the middle. I've got an older sister and a younger sister. And I know whatever mood I'm in, I know which sister to call. If I want to complain about my parents, I call one of them. If I want somebody who's going to help me talk me out of the way I'm feeling, I'll call the other one. But we all know people like that, right? That are just wired certain ways that oftentimes they just live more consistently in that trap. And what I've found is that, we're looking for threats, but also we are meant to be in the pack. That we are meant to be connected to other humans. And so for you to break away from negativity, oftentimes there's like an alarm that goes off in your head that goes, oh no, I'm out here on my own. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. So I think there's a lot of reasons why we get caught up in this trap. But I'm telling you, if you want to be a positive force for good wherever you are, you've got to learn how to identify the trap of negativity, because it wants to get in you. It wants to lead the day. It wants to take over your brain. It wants to become your mindset. And whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee, whether you're trying to grow as a leader, whether you're getting married, trying to have a healthy marriage, trying to be a great parent, trying to be a good friend, living in that trap of negativity, it's dangerous. It will hold you back. And there are as many negative benefits to the trap of negativity as there are on the flip side. There's so many positive benefits of not living in it, right? The people in our world that have been able to really make change, they're the people that are able to see opportunity. They're the people that are able to go, there's this, I know it's going to be challenging, I know it's going to be hard, but here's our opportunity. I don't know if any of you are any college football fans in here? A few? Well, only since we're in Ohio, I'll talk about not the Indiana team that just won the national championship, but let's think back to 15 months ago when Ohio State in 2024, what happened at the end of their season? Does anybody remember? Yeah, who'd they lose to? Yeah, that team up north, right? They lost a really crucial game. And I remember watching that game on TV. I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm not a fan of the team up north. I'm a fan of neither of those teams, but I was watching it like plenty of people were. And Ryan Day, the coach at Ohio State, he was despondent. It was crazy to watch him after that game. I mean, he had no emotion. This is when there were brawls in the middle of the field over where they were planting the flag, all of that stuff. Well, I remember, the talk, all the talk on talk radio around that time was not if he was going to get fired. It was when he was going to get fired. They just knew, he's done. And what's interesting is something happened in that locker room. I obviously wasn't there, so I don't know. But somebody in that locker room was a voice for good. Somebody in that locker room had the ability to not let the negativity wear them down, to turn off the noises from the outside, and they were able to look at the people in there and say, hey, it's not over, there's still more to play for, and we've still got work to do. And then they go on to win the national championship. It was really a remarkable turnaround. And to me, somewhere in there, I would love to know the intricacies of it, because somebody fought the negativity trap and decided, I'm not going to live in that, but instead I'm going to choose the alternative. Now, I don't think the alternative to negativity is just I don't think the problem, it's not just what it does to us, but it is what it keeps us from. Negativity feels like protection. Sometimes maybe you're negative because you think, I've been let down before, I've seen this happen before. What is that line? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? I'm not going to let this happen again. And so sometimes negativity feels like me protecting myself, right? Some of you live with that feeling of, I don't have anything to worry about right now, but I'm kind of worried because I don't have anything to worry about, right? At some point, the other shoe's going to drop, and I got to be ready for it. Sometimes negativity does feel like protection, but the danger is it really does limit our growth. It limits our ability to be open to other options and to grow. And so being able to identify it, being able to fight it is really important. What's interesting about negativity is I don't know if the antidote for negativity is just positivity. I think there might be another little intricacy. Again, this is where my pastor background comes in, but if you've ever read the little letter that the Apostle Paul wrote called Philippians, that letter is a really interesting letter, because does anybody remember where he was when he wrote it? For some of you like real Bible nerds, where was he? He was in prison when he wrote it, right? And yet, over and over again, he uses this one particular word more than any other word that he uses. He uses the word joy. Now, when you think of the word prison, where does the word joy fall on the list of other words that you also think of, right? Probably not toward the top. You don't typically associate locked up in a Roman prison with, that sounds like a good time. That sounds like real joy, right? But somehow, he was resetting his mind. He was changing his mindset. He was not letting the circumstances determine the trap that was going to happen in his head. I think joy is actually the antidote. I think it's the antidote for negativity. I think learning how to find joy, learning how to train our brain to see joy, and then building that muscle that actually can grow the more we see it. Joy is not just, I like this phrase, it's not just optimism. Joy is trained perspective. You know this, right? That any of you that have ever kept a gratitude journal, or if you've ever done one of those simple practices of waking up every morning and before your 10 toes even hit the ground, you make yourself come up with a couple things you're grateful for. Or maybe you end the day going, what happened today that I'm grateful for? That is a way we build up that muscle of joy. And what ends up happening, you know this, what happens the more you train your mind to see those moments of joy, to see those opportunities for gratitude, what happens the next day? What happens? You start seeing them more often, right? And then you start training yourself to see them, and you're like, man, I don't know how long this thing has been here. When I was 16, we had this old family car that got passed down to me. It was like a 1988 Volvo 240 DL. It was white. I called her the White Lightning. I mean, she was a beast. I mean, you did not want to get in her way. And I was not real excited about that car as a 16-year-old. But the one thing that I held on to is I'm like, well, at least it's unique. I didn't know anybody else who drove a Volvo until the first day I drove it. And then I'm driving it to school, pull up at the first traffic light, and I look over next to me, and what do I see? Another Volvo. I'm like, well, shoot, I didn't even know. Okay, there's two in this little town. Wow, That's news to me. Pull up to the next light. I see another one. I pass one going this way. I see another one. I pull into the parking lot at school, and there's like 6 other ones in there. I'm like, where did all these come from? Did they all just show up that day? No. What happened? Started noticing them. I started looking for them, right? And joy, gratitude, they work in the same way. Those things are there. Those moments are there, but it requires us training our mind to see them. And again, it's like a muscle. The more you do it, it's not that the more they start showing up, but you start training your mind to see them, and you start recognizing them more, and it becomes the word you used, ma'am, right here, what's her name? Mina. Mina said it's automatic, right? It is. It starts to become second nature. And not only do you start seeing them more often, but it actually works up this muscle. You build this muscle, the muscle of joy. It's not just optimism. It's trained perspective. It's training your mind to see life differently. You know this, right? 2 people can look at the same situation, and one person can go, oh no, and another person can go, oh, this is going to be interesting, right? Same situation. I'll never forget, I got this buddy of mine who's one of the more positive people that I know. We're in Atlanta. One of the worst things about Atlanta is the traffic. And we're pulling up to this interstate exchange where we knew there was going to be a lot of traffic. And as we start cresting the hill, you can immediately see the red lights, the tail lights, the brake lights. And he looks at me and he goes, oh man, this is going to be a good opportunity for some traffic. And I was like, are you a serial killer? Who says that, right? Like, that's ridiculous. This is a good opportunity for some traffic, right? But he was like, yeah, a little more time in the car, a little more conversation. This could be good. I'm like, see, I see this situation and I think, you got to be kidding me. And you see it and your mind is trained differently. I'm telling you, I know in some ways that's crazy, but it is possible. And the people in your life that have changed your life, they have it. You can think back to a moment, right? Maybe it was a moment where a relationship ended, you lost a job, you hit some financial crisis. For me, I'll never forget going to grad school. I was not feeling it. I was not excited about it. I walk into this 100-year-old dorm room. It's where me and Ryan actually met. Ryan, you've been in those dorms? I mean, they are disgusting. And I've never been in prison. I've never been incarcerated. But when I walked into that dorm room, I was like, this must be what prison feels like. Like, it's got to be similar to this. And my dad, I've got a wonderful father who he was over my shoulder going, this is perfect. This is exactly what you need. This is exactly where you need to be. This is going to be great. I mean, I looked around at him. I'm like, are you crazy, right? But he was real. He meant it. He was not just making it up. And I'm telling you, moments like that in your life, there have been people that have showed up that have been that for you. They have been the voice for good. They've been the wind in your sails. And the question is, can you choose to be that as well? Can you choose to capture those thoughts of negativity and replace them with joy? Having joy in our life, it begins with the thoughts in our mind. You want joy in your life, it begins with having thoughts in your mind. I'm telling you, this will affect work, this will affect home, this will affect every relationship that you have, but it begins with what's happening in your mind. So here's a couple of skills. We talked about this in the last session. I jumped ahead, unfortunately, but number one, we got to take our thoughts captive. So we got to take those thoughts of negativity captive, right? Most people with negativity, they are thinking out in the future about something that hasn't actually happened. And it's one thing to be prepared. It's one thing to be responsible. It's one thing to buy insurance. But it's another thing to live like that is an actual reality, right? And you got to take that thought captive and go, wait a second, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to hold on to this. I'm not going to let this rule the day. Second skill is this. We've got to audit our inputs, right? What does that mean? What does it mean to audit your inputs? Yeah, you got to pay attention to what you're putting in. Somebody have their hand up back there? What were we going to say? Yeah, you got to decide what you're putting in, right? You got to pay attention to what you're putting in. Everything you take in, you know this, it's going to affect your thoughts. So maybe for you it means I need to listen or I need to watch less news. Maybe you need to change what you're reading, right? My wife was telling me the other day that she was struggling with her thoughts. And one of the things I know about my wife, just like every middle-aged woman in America these days, she's a fan of true crime. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, wild idea. Potentially, it could be, call me crazy, the fact that every night you're listening to some story of some crime where someone murdered someone and did something despicable, deplorable, awful to them. Maybe, just maybe, that's why what's happening in your head is the way it is. But who am I, right? And she was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That can't be. I'm like, you're totally right. You're absolutely right. It couldn't be that, right? But that's an example of auditing our inputs, of going like, I got to pay attention to what am I reading? What am I listening to? What am I watching? What am I exposing myself to? Because all of that is going to affect what's happening in the head, right? We got to take every thought captive. We got to audit our inputs. And then we got to choose. We got to decide. It really is a choice, right? It is a choice of what we dwell on. This is why gratitude is so powerful, because gratitude snaps us back into the reality of what do I have now, right? Have you ever heard that phrase, count your blessings, right? That's what counting your blessings is. Instead of counting sheep, I would encourage you can't fall asleep at night. Try counting your blessings, right? Because what is fear? What is anxiety? It's everything that's out in the future. It's all the things out in the future that could happen. What is gratitude? Gratitude is, what do I have right now? Psychologists, therapists, they would call this mindfulness, right? It's the ability to be right here. The ability to pay attention to what am I experiencing now? Am I able to deal with this? Is there a chance that it could still work out? Is there a chance that, hey, I'm still alive, here's what I do have, this is what I got going for me? Learning how to do that, I'm telling you, it's as important as working out. It's as important as healthy eating. You got to choose. You got to make a decision of here's what I'm going to dwell on. Last thing, here's the leadership payoff for this. Negativity doesn't just affect you, it shapes the emotional climate around you. You remember how we began this conversation on mind traps? You're not just a victim to the culture, you're affecting the culture every single day. And the way you show up matters. And negativity, it affects the emotional climate that you put off. You got to decide, what do I want people to feel? I shared this with you last year, but for those that missed it, I'll share it again. When you have those moments where you look at your phone and you see someone's name pop up. To me, it's the phone test, right? It tells you, how does this person make me feel? For some of you, it's happened since you've been here, right? And you got some people, the name pops up and you think, great, I can't wait to call this person back. This person is a wind in my sail. This is somebody that I need right now. And then in some cases, you see that name and you think, not today, Satan, right? And you send them to your voicemail, which I would encourage you, this is just a little trick. There's a few people, not many, there's a few in my life that are like that. And I don't send them to voicemail. I make them wait through all the rings just so I have that little moment of satisfaction. I'm just kidding. That's terrible. I wouldn't encourage you to do that. But what I would say is, would you be willing to turn the table? Would you be willing to go, all right, if there are people that I think about when I see their names, how do people think about me when they see my name, right? The people that work beside you, the people that work around you, your boss, the people that work for you. When they see your name pop up, how do they feel? You're not a victim to that. You actually have the opportunity to influence that, and that negativity mindset, being able to eradicate that and replace it with joy, that will change the way they feel when they see your name pop up more than anything else that we've talked about. All right, the last one is this. Well, let me give you these questions, but if you would just take a picture of them, we'll hold on to these and we'll come back and do this discussion. Then I didn't mean to put these in there. But what thoughts do I entertain that are holding me back? What are the negative thoughts that you entertain? Are there particular times in the day when you entertain them? What input shape my emotional state the most? Would you be willing to do an inventory, audit those inputs? And then lastly, what is the perspective that I need to choose daily? What's the perspective that I got to start making myself choose daily? All right, last trap is this. This is my favorite one to talk about. It's the all or nothing trap. You familiar with the all or nothing trap? This is the trap that says everything's perfect or it's awful. Everything's great or it's terrible. That was a total success or that was an utter failure. It's the tendency to think in terms of polar opposites without accepting the possibilities that lie between these two extremes. Pay attention. You'll start seeing it, right? Maybe you've got a boss like this. Maybe you've got some employees like this. Maybe you see this in yourself. It's that thing in us that wants to go, everything's great or everything's awful, everything's perfect or everything's terrible, that was a total success or that was a total failure. When the reality of life is that's not the way life works, right? The all or nothing mindset is the belief that if something isn't perfect, it's a failure. Here's some statements that people with the all or nothing mindset say. If I can't do it right, I won't do it at all. Now, there's an attention to detail, and there's a pursuit of excellence that's real. But if you live with it is only perfect or else it doesn't exist, you will never ship a product. You will never sell a product, right? That eventually you got to go, all right, this is where it is. We've done everything we can do, and now we're going to hit send, right? This is if we missed the goal, the whole quarter was a waste. If this launch isn't a home run, it's pointless. Now, I want you to just stop for 1 second and think about what would it be like to work for someone like that? Some of you don't have to imagine very hard because you know. What would it be like? It's a really difficult thing. It's binary thinking in a world that's actually incremental. We live in a world that is a little bit at a time, right? And again, what I'm not saying is take your foot off the gas and don't care about quality. Take your foot off the gas and don't care about excellence. No, there is a way to live excellently while still recognizing that life happens incrementally, that life is not just binary, right? It's the person that only will take perfection over paralysis. This is what ends up happening is I can either do it exactly the way I want to do it or I just won't do it. And that's a dangerous way to live, right? Maybe you've worked with people like that. Maybe you've seen that even in yourself. Here's the way this affects our leadership. This is my favorite part of this, is that here's what all or nothing leaders do. They overreact to setbacks. They struggle with feedback because feedback's all about growth, right? Feedback's all about, oh, we could take that and we're going to continue to incrementally change. We're going to continuously improve. They personalize failure, meaning if it didn't go well, there must be something wrong with me. They have emotional highs, emotional lows, and they create pressure-heavy cultures that you've probably worked in before. There's a poet that said it this way. I want to see if you recognize where this is from, but I think this is beautiful. This poet said, there's always going to be another mountain. I'm always going to want to make it move. There's always going to be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm going to have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb. Anybody know who wrote that? Miley Cyrus. And the fact that you knew that makes it even better. You must have daughters. Exactly. Yeah, that's Miley Cyrus. It's kind of a thoughtful way she put it, though, isn't it? That it is about the climb, right? I mean, this is a better way to think than just the all or nothing. This is the Alex Honnold. How do you say his last name? This is his way of thinking, right? It's one climb at a time. That we're actually moving somewhere. We're going somewhere. We're growing in some way. I think Miley said it well. Here's I'm going to give you 3 skills. The first one is a reframe. Here's the reframe. Resilient leaders with a healthy mindset, they replace perfect or nothing with better than yesterday. Better than yet, continual improvement, continual growth, it's just better than the all or nothing mindset. And so we got to identify it and then we got to replace it. And a great way to replace it is to say, all right, was I able to get 1% better? Is it better than yesterday? Here's a tactical strategy for you. I call it the 90% rule. The 90% rule says when something is 90% ready and directionally right, ship it, right? If it's 90% ready, 90% directionally right, hit send on it. Now, some of you are going to have a really hard time with this because this is not the way you live. For some of you, 90%, you're like, wow, I send it at 60. Well, you might need to grow a little bit in your quality, right? But I think 90% is a solid target because isn't there always something that can improve? Isn't there always something that can change? And if you never hit send because there's always something that can change or get better or fix, you'll never hit it. And so for a lot of you, you got to put on the 90% tactical strategy that just says, all right, when it gets to 90%, we're going to hit go, knowing that we're never done. We're going to continue to get feedback, listen, grow, and improve. All right, and the last one is this. It's the culture rule. The first one is the reframe, what you do in your head mentally. The second one's a strategy, and this is for the whole team. This is the culture rule, that what you reward will be repeated. That as the boss, you got to decide, what are we going to reward? Are we going to reward only perfect? Or are we going to reward growth, improvement? Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you only reward big wins, perfect outcomes, flawless execution, what are you going to get on your team? You're going to get risk-averse teams who are prone to hiding mistakes. Oh, the boss is coming. Cover it up. Don't want anybody to see it. Put a little bit of whiteout over it, right? And you're going to get employees, you're going to have leaders that are waiting too long to act. Now, let me flip it around. Let me show you the other side of the coin. If you say, all right, I'm going to go with the continual improvement strategy, the Miley Cyrus way, the we're climbing a mountain, if you reward learning, effort, feedback, iteration, what are you going to get? You're going to get resilient teams. You're going to get honest mistakes, right? You're never going to have a mistake-free culture, but you're going to get people that are willing to be honest about their mistakes. That's way better than hiding mistakes, and ultimately, you're going to get faster growth. You're going to create an environment, you're going to create a culture where people are willing to grow because they know we're never going to stop growing. We're always growing. So if that's the case, we're always there. This is a little bit like personal health, right? Your physical health. You would never go to the doctor and expect the doctor to say, oh my goodness, nurse, PA, NP, admin in the front office, billing, y'all get in here, you got to see this. This is the perfect human, right? Because that's not how health works. You could be really healthy today, and then you could change some things and get on a trend line going the other way, or you could flip it around. You could be in an unhealthy spot, make some changes, and get on a trend line that goes the other way. It's not a destination. Health is about where are you trending? Are you trending toward emotional health, spiritual health, physical health, or are you not? To me, it's another way to think about the all or nothing mindset, that instead of perfect or paralysis or being paralyzed, it's going, no, we're going to fight for continual improvement. Last thing, if you decide to fight for progress and not perfection, this is how resilient leaders are born. Built. Resilient leaders are built by, again, going through the hard thing, not getting knocked down, getting back up, and continuing to grow. This is believing that life is a laboratory. You remember, did you ever take any classes that were pass-fail? That's a stressful situation, right? When you're like, if I don't get this right, I'm totally wrong and I'm out. A lot of us, too many of us, we think about our lives that way. But the reality of life is not pass-fail. Life is more like a laboratory. And what do you do in a laboratory? You learn. You go, oh, don't make that mistake again. Make sure to do it that way instead of this way. And we take that learning and we allow it to allow us to grow. And that's how resilient leaders are built. They're built by going, you know what? I'm going to fight for progress. I'm not just going to fight for perfection. I'm taking one step at a time, always going to be growing. So a couple questions for you. I'd love for you to spend, are we going to do discussion, some discussion? Wait, we'll give you 10 minutes of discussion. We'd love for you to discuss these. Some of you took a picture of those negativity ones. You're welcome to discuss that. Or here's 3 questions on this one. Where do I personally default to all or nothing thinking? Is there a time, is there a particular part of your business when you find yourself doing that? Secondly, could there be a time, could there be a situation where you are interpreting failure inaccurately? Instead of saying, oh, I failed, I'm totally out. I lost that job, I must be a loser. We lost that client, then we're sunk. No, instead, is there a way to go, no. Here's what we learned because we're incrementally growing. And then last thing, what would change? What would change for you as a leader if you replace judgment with curiosity, particularly in stressful moments, right? In stressful moments, we want to find somebody to blame, but instead, we got to be curious to go, what can we learn here, right? I meant to put this at the end. I usually put a slide at the end that says, here's my email. I have found that my purpose on earth is to serve leaders like you. And so if there's ever anything I can do to help you, it would be my honor to get to do it. So my email is just clay.scroggins@gmail.com. Hit me up. If you're on LinkedIn, that's the new adult Facebook, evidently. But would love to connect with you. Thanks for your engagement. I hope the next 10 minutes of discussion will be great. I'll be around. Would love to say hello. Again, Brian, thank you so much for the invite. Jonathan, thank you. And you guys are awesome. See ya.